Alright, so today we are talking about Infinity Kingdom Immortals. And we are going through the attack type Immortals and ranking them S, A, B, C, or F for failing. This is just the base Immortal, not their unique artifact. Not, well, with this Immortal they are this good or that bad. It's them on their own and what they bring to a team. So it's my opinion. But let's jump into it and work through it with all three water immortals at once. We'll go with Harold, Ramses, and Attila. 1, 2, 3. A, B, and C. Harold is your premier damage dealing frontliner for water. He out damages Ramses and Attila by far. He has a defense break for physical on his skill, so he can be flexed into other teams with things like GK or Gilga or Liz as a carry. Ramses is not quite the same at damage dealing. He doesn't have that defense break. He doesn't have the base innate damage on his thing that Harold has. All of his damage when he carries it is based on the tower skills that you put on him. So he's kind of lackluster as a damage dealer, but he is great for disarming important foes. And disarming the Alexes, the Siegfrieds, the Himikos, the big burst damage dealers, the big gonna eat your team alive damage dealers. You line him up next across from him, and it buys your team time for your team to get the ground to take the fight and control it at your pace. Attila used to be great with his silence rate. Now his silence rate is 15%. It's abysmal. You can't rely on it to proc silence. So what he is there for isn't damage. His damage is really low. What he's there for is to break defense, physical defense for the 3 targets, because that's a 35% proc rate. You can count on that to have probably procced. That's what you're really bringing him in there for. The problem with that is that ties him to needing the Gilgas, the Liz. He can't be ran natively in a lot of marches. You have to get creative to run him right now, which is fine, but it just holds his total value back because he doesn't flex as well as other immortals right now based on the current setups. Continuing along, we'll go with Fire. We'll go with Hippolyta, William, and Frederick. B, C, F. So Hippolyta is great single target. If this was single target tier, should be S or A tier, easy. The problem with her in PvP is she hits 5 targets. If it's all in the front line, in the Charles, in the Bjorn, she does no damage. If it's all in the Himiko or the Gilgamesh or the backline damage carry, she nukes them and she takes away their big skill because she's resetting their energy every time she hits that target. Realistically, you normally hit multiple targets 1 or 2 times each, and it normalizes, but that big swing in her top end potential to her bottom end potential as a damage carry takes a lot of value from her in PvP. So based on that, I can't put her in S or A tier for PvP. But if you do have her and she is running damage skills, you will have reports where she hard carries. You'll have reports where she doesn't do much. So she's kind of that middle of the road immortal. William only really brings us crit. His damage does nothing on his ability hardly, and he has really low energy regen. So you can't even guarantee that crit rate is 100% uptime. So unless you're running adrenaline rush on him, you're not going to have that buff all the time. You're better off just, in a lot of cases, he's not a flex, because if you want to run it in lightning, you're better off just throwing weakness in the march on one of the immortals and running a better immortal, someone that gives a better utility or better damage. He just doesn't fit those situations. He has niches and he fits within fire, but Trajan, a defense immortal, just does his job better. Frederick has some potential as a flex, but he doesn't fit fire at all. Damage and a heal on his damage on his ability. It just doesn't synergize. His energy regen also is a pretty abysmal. So we haven't seen many marches with him flexing into water, earth, lightning, anything like that. But if he is going to be viable, it's going to be in one of those marches. But since we haven't seen it, I can't, in good faith, say he's a C or a B tier immortal based off something we haven't seen. In theory, it might work, but what we've seen out of him in Fire has been pretty lackluster. So going to make that assumption that in those other marches he's still currently lackluster. Frederick needs some buffs. Jumping tiers, we'll go into the premium immortals. We'll go Siegfried, Manko, Kublai Khan, in that order. We're going to drop Siegfried in the B tier, just base level immortal. Manko in the A tier, and Kublai as the 1 S tier. Spoiler, there's only 1 S tier in this list. Siegfried at his base level doesn't do a lot of damage compared to what you would think he would as that premium immortal. His energy regen is low. He gets a lot of value when you start adding things like Bjorn, when you start adding things like his unique artifact. But without those things, long-term Shadow users will probably be able to say, no, in the beginning he was pretty weak until they started doing all these things to help facilitate him. Spear and Pale has brought that value up, because if you had asked me 6 months ago, I would probably put him in the C tier. But now with Spear and Pale, it brings him up to B tier. And I could see the argument for any of these three, A, B, or C. But I'm just going to default that to saying he's pretty middle of the pack. I wouldn't flex him into any other comp other than Shadow. So that also kind of weighs him a little bit. Manko, being an A tier instead of an S tier, is something that could be controversial potentially, but it comes down to his kit. He is good. He is really good damage. He hits the whole team. He bursts everything over and over and over every 30 seconds, but he doesn't provide that control immunity to off elements. So you have a hard time when you start flexing Immortals into Holy, or when you start flexing him out. He would make a great damage dealer for like Earth, but he doesn't provide that control immunity. And if we're talking damage dealers, Kublai is just better for universal use. He hits like a truck. He cycles in energy really fast. He defense breaks. So even if he doesn't pop off the damage, he's empowering your other immortals to do it too. So Kublai as a damage dealer and a flex unit and stuff like that just is a tier above Manko. If you're talking only strictly within Holy, they're on the same tier. If this is just within their own march only, there's nothing else at play, yeah, they are 1-2 kind of thing. But when you're looking at them as an immortal, Kublai is just a step above, in my opinion. Moving on to Wind, we got Saladin and Hannibal. Hannibal without his base artifact is good. It does damage. It synergizes well with Quinn. It synergizes well with the Wind Dragon. But it needs specific skills to really hold its true value. Saladin has never been that good since the Energy Burst nerf. He has too many hit checks, too many dodge checks. He falls off. The Energy Burst nerf hit him hard. Without his unique artifact, he's C tier, and I struggled not to put him in F tier. Jumping into the Lightning, we got Peter as a C and Lewis as an F. Peter is disappointing that he doesn't strip Charles' shield. It kind of takes away from his total value of what he's great for, because as a counter to Earth, he doesn't strip the Charles shield. He can't strip Alex with his unique artifact, so he's just kind of there for damage. Lewis is a step in the right direction for IK, but a big miss of the mark. We need magic damage frontliners, so he was a good theory. The problem is, standalone, he has physical attack as his main stat. He wants physical damage skills out of the tower. But he also wants attack speed. Because he wants to, when he procs, he wants to be doing that magic damage to get the buffs, to empower Hammurabi. But without Hammurabi, he's lackluster. So, and Hammurabi is the only mage that really benefits off of him. It's a good step in the right direction to giving us magic damage frontliners. But give us magic normal attacks. Give us a magic scale, like convert his physical attack into magic attack when he's in his form, something, because his ability hits like a wet noodle. Overall, if you're not running Hammurabi, you can't run Lewis without trolling. Getting into the last two, we'd go with Mehmed, who I bounce between C and F, and then Alex, who I put it firmly in A. Mehmed bounces between C and F. Right now, I am dropping him in C because he's single target. One person, big damage, that's it. He cleanses himself only. The only thing keeping him in C is the fact that if the enemy dodges, then he goes again instantly, and it can't be dodged. So he will get that damage guaranteed. The thing is, single target, he's outclassed by Alex. Like, Alex just outdoes it. Like, a lot of these Immortals just outclass him in single target to the point where he doesn't really have that identity of what he's good for within his team. And if you're going to look at flexing him, there are just better options than him. Alex is a great auto attacker, great physical damage dealer. The issue that holds him back from S tier is the fact that his immunity is tied to his ability, which without his unique artifact is not passive. It only happens when he casts. So you can actually control a base Alex. He's on a leash a little bit. Now, this is my tier list of the base Immortals as they stand. If we want to adjust for the unique artifacts, there's only really 3 changes I would make for unique artifacts. It's Alex up to S tier, it's Hannibal up to A tier, maybe a low S tier, and Siegfried at A tier with the unique artifacts. This is the unique artifact list because it gives control immunity, which means he gets to open up to full damage skills. It gives permanent cleave, that means he gets to open up to full attack speed skills, and it's just raw damage to make him hit harder and execute faster. Now, the only other Immortals that could maybe be argued would change would be Saladin and Attila. Attila, because any team with a mage, he empowers the mage, so maybe you could bump him, but it's still a very situational thing. And Saladin would be being bumped actually as a utility, not a damage dealer, because his artifact gives physical defense reduction on all of his ability attempts. It's a percent chance, obviously, but that means things like a heavy damage lightning team, a heavy physical damage water team, potentially, if you have the new water immortal that's coming out, a fire team with the fire archer. He has some potential in these to empower the physical damage dealers to do it with his artifact. But until we see people running it that way, he's still, even with his unique artifact, as a standalone Immortal, probably a C tier. Now, this is my list. It's my opinion, but I encourage people to talk about this and discuss it, because the more we discuss things like this, the more IK will make changes or start losing people building things like the Lewis. If more people start discussing this and seeing that Lewis is good, Lewis is bad, it encourages them to make changes that are positive for the players rather than for just their wallets. So anytime I post anything like this, it's going to be encouraged. Talk about it. I am open for discussions at any point, but this is my list as I see it. Thank you.